Oh, and that's a brilliant effort, and they've turned it right around. In the space of a few minutes, Saudi Arabia grab control of the game.
Everyone, welcome to a new episode of Dawri, the Saudi football podcast, brought to you, of course, by Arab News. The domestic season is over in Saudi Arabia, and, well, there's more glory for Al Hilal. Indeed, the past week has seen the conclusion of the domestic league and cup competitions across the region and, of course, around the world. With me, as always, is Arab News sports editor Ali Khaled to look back on another action-packed week. Ali, only one place to start this week, though.
Yep. Hi, Peter. Good to be back. Yes, on Friday, we saw the conclusion of the Saudi domestic season with the King's Cup final between, who else? Al Hilal and Al Nasser, the two teams that had finished first and second in the Saudi Pro League, of course. It was dramatic for many reasons, which we will discuss with our guest later on. Incredible atmosphere, Peter. Very, very...
It looked unreal, the atmosphere.
Yeah, like really tense match. And you could see how much it meant to both sets of players and supporters. Anyone who doubted, the passion that the fans have, or the players who, especially the new players who come, really should have watched that game. Incredible stuff. I know your old favourite, Alexander Mitrovic, scored after only 7 minutes for Hilal. Ayman Yahya equalised for Al Nasser with 2 minutes left on 88 minutes. Really fiery match. Produced 3 red cards, Peter. 2 for Al Hilal, 1 for Al Nasser. But, what I found really interesting was, the timings of these sendings off. You look back and it suggested maybe they should have been, more decisive. Maybe played a bigger part in the result. Al Hilal were already 1-0 up when David Ospina, the goal, Al Nasser keeper, was sent off early in the second half, and you would have thought Hilal, that was that. Hilal would go on and win this comfortably. They didn't, and Al Nasser hung on the final few minutes, and then when Ali El Balehi, perhaps not too surprisingly, was sent off, shall we say, Al Nasser seized their chance to equalise almost immediately. Al Hilal's Koulibaly was sent off, and then you think the momentum completely shifted, and you think, right, we've got extra time now. It's Al Nasser's turn to be favourites. Surely they're going to win this. But there was no more penalty. There was no more goals. Went to penalties. Bono and Hilal goal proved the hero. Incredible scenes at the end. Like I said, we'll discuss with our guest in a bit. The images of Cristiano Ronaldo crying at the end, we're seen right around the world. Went quite viral on, obviously, as you'd imagine, on social media. I think it's safe to say no King's Cup final before has ever received this much global attention.
Absolutely, rightly so as well. It was a huge game in an absolutely tumultuous season in Saudi. So say congratulations yet again to Al Hilal. They've proven themselves beyond a shadow of a doubt. They are, of course, the best team in Saudi and one of the best in Asia. Everywhere you looked, there's big trophies being handed out over the last week. We may be a podcast about Saudi and Arab football, but of course, we keep a very keen eye on all the big happenings around the world, and none were bigger than the UEFA Champions League final. Another historic night for a team that is extremely popular around these parts, AK.
Of course, Peter. We know how popular Real Madrid are in the Middle East, alongside Barcelona, of course. Another Champions League for Madrid. 2-0 win, over Borussia Dortmund. In the end, not a fantastic game. I didn't think it was a great game at all. Borussia Dortmund were excellent in the first half, but should have taken the lead. And, once that didn't happen, we know the script that's going to, what will happen. Madrid, as they usually do, come back, win without playing particularly well in that match. You look at the star players. I know Vinicius Jr. scored, and of course Jude Bellingham provided the pass for that. But neither of them, I thought, were fantastic in that match.
Not at their best.
Not at their best, but some amazing stories there. Of course, Toni Kroos and Luka Modric winning their 6 titles. Their 6 titles each, incredible. Courtois comes back. hero again after he did that against Liverpool a couple of years ago. So, a big match. We know, as you mentioned, Peter, we usually cover, Arab football and Saudi football, but this is the biggest match in club football in the world. And I thought perhaps the overall quality of the match was a bit lacking. Of course, exciting in bits and pieces, especially when Dortmund looked like they were going to score. But ultimately, congratulations again to Real Madrid. I know it's made a lot of people in Saudi Arabia and the UAE and the rest of the Arab world very happy. Their popularity is quite unmatched, I think. Huge. So.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, Ali, quite rightly, didn't live up to the billing, which is strange for a Champions League final. They're normally full of thrills and spills, but they did what they had to do, I think. And they continue. They continue.
Yeah.
And Ancelotti, by the way, who I think is not given, he gets credit, but not as much credit as he deserves. I mean, what a legend.
No, absolutely. Really good point about Ancelotti. Should have been mentioned. He's a lot of the time. I think there's this. A lot of people would say like Pep is a tactical genius. Klopp, again, very tactical. Even Mourinho back in the day. While Ancelotti is seen as someone who a man manager, a great man manager, someone who manages big clubs and all that. But you've got to be a tactical genius yourself to keep winning and keep coming up with different ways. And he does it, with such class and coolness, shall we say? So fantastic for him. And look, as we said, Real Madrid. We've run out of words to describe how good they are in this in the Champions League, year after year after year. Incredible, 15 titles now.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. All I could say is he must have a huge pad in Madrid to hold all those European Cups that he's won. Fantastic achievement for him yet again and his team. Okay, this week we're bringing in our special guest earlier than usual because we just have to. We've got so much to get through, so it's a warm welcome back to our Middle East football expert, Matt Monaghan. How are you, Matt? I'm
good, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah,
Great stuff.
Very good. Ali's itching to get going with the questions. He's got you up against the wall, ready for a quick fire. I'm looking forward to listening to this bit, as I always do. So I'll hand over to you, AK.
I'm just relieved that there won't be any predictions this week.
Yeah, exactly. It's all.
I might sneak a one in while you're talking to Ali.
Matt, good to have you back as always. So much to talk about this week, and I know obviously you've been keeping an eye on all the developments in Saudi football and in the UAE as well. We're going to start off with Saudi. What did you think of the cup final? And again, Al Hilal wrapping up the double.
Oh, a match that very much lived up to the billing, and also I'd say as well, I think it was also the best game of the season as well. It's been obviously a revolutionary season in Saudi football, and I thought they saved the best to last. It was, where do you begin? It's almost words can't do it justice. Several red cards, late goals, penalty shootout, Ronaldo crying. It had everything.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it's I actually predicted that Al Nassr would cause an upset, and really, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the match, maybe Al Hilal should have finished the match off when Ospina was injured. Was sent off, not injured. But likewise, Al Nassr having come back into it and going into extra time with a man advantage, surely a tiring Al Hilal, that was Al Nassr's chance.
Yeah, I think it just showed the champion spirit of Al Hilal that managed to somehow hang on, play basically the majority. I played all of extra time with 9 men against a Nasser team who Ospina had been sent off just after the hour mark, I think. It was a quite incredible game in a really. I love that stadium in Jeddah, Kick Abdullah Sports City, and it was just that stadium was rocking, wasn't it? It was just so drama filled.
Fantastic. Matt, I want to put you on, not so much on the spot. I know you and I work, obviously, you do some fantastic contributions for Arab News, and you've done a wrap of the season for us, which is excellent. And I hope everyone goes to our website and reads it, or our Twitter account and catches Matt's excellent review of the season. But, we want to talk about it here. So I'm going to hit you like with a few, sort of the things that we have discussed, you and I discussed, like, best team, best player and all that. And, just give us, what you thought of this, as you say, like an incredible Saudi Pro League season. I mean, probably the most obvious one of all, but we got to ask best team.
I mean, it has to be Al Hilal. I mean, the numbers are just staggering, aren't they? Clean sweep of domestic trophies. Those world record 34 consecutive victories across all competitions. And then I think for me, maybe the most startling is their ability. If you think of how the influx of stars into the Saudi League last summer, and they go on to manage to win 31 out of 34 top flight fixtures, scoring more than 100 goals. It's absolutely incredible. Like the standard was risen, and also Al Hilal, it was pretty much a complete new set of foreign players as well. And I think maybe the masterstroke was bringing George Jesus back in. Somebody who knows the league well. Eyebrows were raised when they brought Jesus back. He left a bit acrimoniously, left it suddenly several years ago, and he just had the experience, didn't he, to meld it all together.
Amazing. Best player.
Best player, I mean, it has to be, doesn't it? Cristiano.
Yeah.
Record season, 35 goals. Only 2 players got more assists than him. Some incredible goals. That lob against Alex Dude was probably right up there for my favourite goals of the season. And he dragged Al Nassr along, didn't he? I think Al Nassr were Al Nassr were worse than Al Hilal, and he kept them in and around it. And also, I'd say for Ronaldo as well, that his first half season in Saudi Arabia, I wouldn't describe it as underwhelming on the pitch, but he didn't certainly live up to top billing. But he really, really did step it up in his first full campaign, and I thought he was brilliant.
Quick note on here before we move on to the other nominations regarding. You said like he really did drag Al Nassr in all the competition. Yeah. They obviously fell short in the 2 big ones. Would you say like Sadio Mane and the others fell a little bit short as well?
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I thought Brozovic was brilliant for Al Nassr, but I think of, like you say, of the summer editions, like Otavio is, for example, Otavio is a solid player. You're never going to say anything different to him, but he's never in his career been a big attacking force. And Al Hilal just, I think, had just far too much firepower for Al Nassr. And with Mane, his career's been very disappointing, hasn't it, since leaving Liverpool. I thought he continued this year. We saw us in the Kings Cup semi-final, a quite pointed celebration as well. He's quite a fractious relationship at times between Mane and the Nassr support at times. And I just don't think something seems to have gone with Mane, that he doesn't seem to be at that level we know he's at anymore. And you see, Ronaldo's almost a decade older than him, and he's still absolutely, running things.
Absolutely. The next nomination is one I'm really interested in, Matt. Best Saudi player.
Best Saudi player, Saud Abdulhamid for me. Somebody who he's approaching his mid-20s. Obviously, he was brilliant in the World Cup in 2022. I thought he was comfortably Saudi Arabia's best player at the recent Asian Cup as well. And he really has just been, he looks fantastic. He was a burgeoning talent, someone who he was elevated by these superstar players coming in alongside him, stepped up his game even further. 3 goals for the season, which levelled his complete career tally for Roshan Saudi League beforehand. That chair celebration during the Kings Cup semi-final was just brilliant. Although not brilliant if you're Al Ittihad affiliated, but and also we've seen as well in the last month or so links to Toulouse in Ligue 1. So it's intriguing because it'll be interesting to see how that fits into the Saudi project. Is it also about bringing the top players from Saudi Arabia, letting them to be exposed in Europe or not?
Amazing, and also Matt, I mean, in a league that when we talk about Saudi players, Salim Al Dosari is always up there. You've mentioned Firas Al Barakan, of course, as well. So to pick Saud Abdulhamid, that's high praise indeed. I think and well deserved, as you said. He's been brilliant for Saudi Arabia.
I'd give a nod to Al Barakan as well, because he obviously joined from Al Fateh in the summer back to one of the big giants after obviously he came through at Al Nassr and never really managed to get consistent winner games, not helped really by the presence of Abdelrazak Hamdallah for so many years there. And he stepped up again at Al Ahly. for quite, for long spells of the season, he became their go-to number 9 because obviously Roberto Firmino had a long spell without scoring any goals, and Al Burkhan was able to carry that for Al Ahly, who were back in the Champions League, back in the top 3 during their return to Russian Saudi League.
No, that is excellent as well. Yeah, and it's good to see as well. A good comeback story from Al Ahly. The next one, Matt, best coach, and I believe you've gone for something a little bit left field.
Yeah, the obvious pick, and it maybe is still the correct pick. This is the subjective master, is obviously Jorge Jesus, who's obviously earned his contract extension very much at Al Hilal. But I've gone for Pericles Chamusca at Al Tawun. To finish 4th ahead of champions Al Ittihad. You look at Al Tawun as well; they're very much they remind me of like a Udinese model, something like that. It's very much like a Watford model. They're sell plenty, bring in plenty, and like Chamusca in his debut season last year got them into the top 5, which is excellent. But you think the step into the top 4, particularly with Al Ahly coming back into the division, is going to be too much. They lose star players in the summer, including the leading assist maker Kaku went to Al Ain. That worked out quite well for him at Al Ain. And then in the winter, they lose Alvaro Madran to Etifak. So these are big players, and he manages to finish quite comfortably ahead of Al Ittihad in 4th for Al Tawun, which is just absolutely incredible achievement. But I think the problem is, and we've seen he's hit the ceiling, hasn't he? So he's been lured to Yellow League of Neom FC, sorry. I think that just exemplifies it. I think he writes quite smartly, feels he's probably taken Al Tawun as far as you can, and the only way is down.
Yeah, look, what a fantastic story throughout the season. From the early weeks of the season, Peter and I, week after week, we would say, Al Tawun, the story of the season, they're punching above their weight, and they managed to maintain that. How many times, Matt, have we seen clubs have a great start and then they fade off, of course, and all that for natural reasons, smaller squads. As you mentioned, a lot of the players, they leave, they get picked off and just tiredness. And for Al Tawun to last the whole season and finish it 4th, absolutely wonderful story.
Yeah, it's incredible. You look at in this season, like Damak and Al Fatah, they very much started brightly and dropped off a bit, tailed off a little bit. But Al Tawun, despite all the tumults in their squad in regards to buying, selling, they managed to continue. Also, they had some big injuries towards the end of the season as well. The likes of Barrow not really playing too much. Barrow was their big summer addition from Serie A, and I just thought an incredible achievement. And also, 2 things. I think one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, Pericles Chamusca. So I'm really happy for him. And 2, I think it's a very smart move for him, and it's a sign of the future, him dropping down the division to Neom FC.
Brilliant stuff. And best goal.
Best goal, I'm going to go for. I thought we had one of the most remarkable seasons. Bernard Mensah at now relegated Altai. Take your pick from 2 of his goals. One of them is someone who grew up watching Serie A in the 90s. I loved his goal against Al Ahly, where it just reminded me of George Weah. He took the ball from deep, beat a number of Al Ahly players, and then slotted past Mendy. But then there's a goal I have never seen before. It was only about a fortnight ago, a game that I covered. I was lucky enough to cover on commentary against Al Fatah, in an absolutely jam-packed penalty box. He slalomed across the entire distance, side to side of the penalty box, it must have been about 6 or 7 defenders in the tightest confines, and then managed to lash the ball home. And Menz, I think Altai obviously ended up being relegated on the final day, but if it hadn't been for the signing of Bernard Mensah, the Ghana midfielder, they'd been relegated months ago.
Amazing. So relegated and Bernard Mensah still manages to score Matt's 2 favorite goals. 2 favorite goals of the season. That is saying something.
I'd say comfortably as well. Like again, I've mentioned earlier on that goal for Ronaldo against Al Ahly. But for me, these 2 goals that Mensah scored were just absolutely ridiculous.
They were brilliant stuff. Okay, this is an interesting one. And I was wondering if you and I both have the same idea here. Best signing of the season.
Best signing of the season, Mitro. I think for everything he brought to the club. He's just he's a warrior, isn't he, up top? And when that's channeled correctly, obviously, people, I'm English, so I've seen the good and bad sides of Mitrovic during his time in the Premier League and the Championship. But it seemed to be that, obviously, is he 30 now? He certainly must be approaching the age of 30. And he just seemed to be that aggression, which could sometimes get out of control at Newcastle and Fulham, was really channeled very well in Saudi Arabia. And he just led from the front, and he scored on his debut. Pretty soon, I think he's lashing in goals in the Champions League, lashing in goals in the Russian side of things, really leading from the front. And as much as I'm a huge fan of Odion Ighalo, he didn't have the same presence up top, and that's something that Al Hilal missed, and certainly last season. And for me, Mitrovic reminds me so much of the great Bafatimi Gomis and his time in front for Al Hilal.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, Al Hilal's foreign contingent really did do well. Malcolm did well. I think Sergei Milinkovic-Savic did really well and all that. But I feel like Mitrovic, I agree with you 100%. He's my signing of the season as well. In the end, was the difference maker. I'm sure a lot of people would say they probably would have won the league without him. But really good point, comparing him to what they had last year, maybe it was like the final piece of the jigsaw, and it's been absolutely brilliant watching Mitrovic this season.
And Al Hilal haggled all summer for him. That was an ongoing transfer saga. I think they really knew that he was the player they wanted to go up top. And I thought he was great. And also got look a little bit further down the league as well. Marginally further down, I thought Frank Kessie was brilliant for Al Ahly, a real leader. And then even further down, Fashion Sakala for Al Fayha, he was sensational, regular scorer of goals. And Kunku at Damascus as well. So I'd say just as a general term, obviously all the attention in Saudi Arabia has been about transfers, and I'd say undue attention was given to Jordan Henderson's mid-season exit. But you have to look at large. He was the only one to leave really of the cohort from the summer, and so many of the signings, both the big ones and the smaller ones, they really did deliver and raise the standards.
I agree. I agree 100%. Unfortunately, we have to also ask worst signing of the season.
Worst signing. So I went for Habib Diallo, Al Shabab, big money recruit from Strasbourg. Just barely scored, barely had any presence up top. I just think they really struggled without a real number 9. And there was that last season, Al Shabab did really well with Carlos Jr. up top, and then Diallo's arrival really made him a peripheral figure. And it just didn't work out at all. Obviously, we mentioned Jordan Henderson. He was barely there, wasn't he, in a lot of respects. Played half the season. He started really well, Henderson, and then started to tail away. And then obviously exited in January. And then for me, the biggest disappointment, it's not his fault, but obviously Neymar. He only played, I think, 3 games in the Russian side of the league, barely over 200 minutes in the league before a serious injury happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Neymar, as you say, mitigating circumstances that it wasn't his fault. He got injured, but it is one of the biggest disappointments, and I think it's one of the biggest disappointments for us. As fans, because we just wanted to watch Neymar play. So it wasn't. Feel sorry for him. It's not like he performed badly. He just didn't perform at all. Because he was bad. So.
The thing as well is look how much we've enjoyed Al Hilal versus Al Nassr this season. Well, imagine if it had been Al Hilal versus Al Nassr, Neymar versus Ronaldo for the entire campaign. It would have added so much to it. So next season.
Absolutely. And look, we were just talking about Mitrovic, all those goals that he scored, really, imagine if, he had Neymar there supplying him even, scary prospect. Right, the last one, Matt, It's a bit of a given, but season to forget.
Yeah, Al Ittihad had one of the all-time worst campaigns. If you look at what went on at Al Ittihad, they were surprise champions in 2022-23, more than a decade without a top flight title, despite their exalted standing in Saudi football. And it was just pretty much a disaster from the get-go. Brought in during the summer like the likes of Benzema, Fabinho, Conte, that really seemed to, I think, Nuno Espirito Santo, he very much had a system and a way of playing, and he managed to get the best out of the players that were in situ, and he dragged them to the title. It was all built on defense. Like, Grohe barely conceded a goal last season, like a record number of clean sheets, and that went out the window straight away. I think they got the age profile may be wrong of the signings. Nuno was gone into the winter. Alex had a distant 6 at that place. And then they bring in Marcelo Gallardo, a manager who has been linked to Saudi since he started excelling at River Plate. Obviously, he did wondrous things at River Plate. He's been someone who's very much been on the agenda for Saudi football for a long time. He finally managed to get in. Pretty much, he gets I know it's only a 3-1 defeat to Egypt Al Ahly in the Club World Cup, but they got absolutely thumped in that match. Like, it could have been any score. They were so far off the pace. And then it doesn't get any better during the Roshan Saudi League campaign. It's only finished more than 40 points behind Al Hilal, and outside outside AFC Champions League elite qualification, behind Al Tawun as well for AFC Champions League 2. So a real disaster for Al Ittihad.
Yeah, shame to see. Like it started. The
season started. It really is.
The season started off quite well, and we thought maybe like a 3-way battle for the title, as well as obviously in the Champions League. Obviously, the Saudi clubs were eventually going to hit each other. But at one point we were saying we can't see the Champions League going to any other anywhere else but one of those 3 Saudi clubs. In the end it didn't go to any of them, but I think Al Ittihad really disappointed in the league and in the Champions League. We hope they come back next season, of course, and some fantastic players they've got, and we'll wait and see. Matt, moving on, that was a really excellent summation of the Saudi Pro League season, but of course the UAE season just finished as well, and you are massively involved in that in terms of commentary and obviously reporting. Some really, really fantastic stories there at the end.
Yeah, it was a really historic final match week. Al Wassel, who'd won the title the previous weekend, it was a celebratory atmosphere at the Beale Stadium. I was lucky enough to commentate in that game, Al Nassr versus Al Wassel. Huge title party, great game as well. Contentious moments, some great goals, and Al Wassel were just, again, I described them like Al Hilal. They were just a cut above this season off, which for Al Wassel was an even bigger achievement. It was 17 years since they had last won the title. It needed 17 years for a domestic trophy, but this season they managed to win the double. They have the likes of Fabio de Lima, who is a legend of UAE club football, coming up to it. He had a decade. Coming up to a trophyless decade of service to Al Wassel, where he's been one of the best players in Asian football, but never really even looked like challenging before. But he'd stayed loyal. Al Wassel had stayed loyal to him, as manager Milos Milojevic said, after the President's Cup. And he got rewarded. He had, like I'm just mentioning, Milojevic. He won the double in Serbia last season, a young manager, and Al Wassel, a really visionary hire to bring him into Middle East football. He did the double in Serbia last year, did the double again this year. The golden boy of UAE football, Ali Saleh, actually wearing the captain's armband for most of the season. Mid-season additions as well, the likes of Jung, the South Korea centre-back. Boutini, who I love, Morocco international centre-back, he's an absolute warrior at the back. And then really good young players as well. They just have so much, they've really intelligently built that squad. And they deserve to win it. And then elsewhere, you had the emotional send-off. Ismail Matar, the legend of Al Wada, pretty much a one-club man apart from a brief stint in Qatar of Al Sadd on a loan spell. Somebody who dragged the UAE to glory, helped 2 Gold Cups, also finished ahead of Andres Iniesta in 2003 for the FIFA Under-20 World Cup Player of the Tournament, which I guess shows his standout. And Ismail Matar might not be a name that people know, but he's someone who, he had the ability on his day, he could be on the pitch with anyone, an absolute legend. Stayed loyal to Al Wada, stayed in the UAE, but had the talent to play anywhere. And I absolutely mean that. He could have played anywhere. I maybe missed his best years by my time coming into the UAE because he kept on playing. How old was he? He must have been, I guess he would have been 40, I think. 41 at the age of retiring. But what a legend, and a great guy as well, this one, a really good club man. And then, Ali Mabkout, it was a bit of a shock, wasn't it, last week, announcing that his time at Jazeera is over. Pointedly, he's not retiring, he's going somewhere else. He's been linked in Arab media to Al Ain, the Champions League holders, and Al Wada, which would be quite a crazy move. Al Wada's only about a mile away the grounds, I think, something like that in Abu Dhabi. And Ali Mabkout, obviously record goal scorer in the UAE top flight, record scorer for Al Jazeera, record scorer for the UAE national team. And the last year or so, he hasn't looked happy. He's dropped a level, I'd say, a little bit as he dropped out of the UAE national setup. So I can see why an exit makes sense at this stage. So it'll be interesting to see if there's another chapter to the Ali Mabkout story, because what a story it's been so far.
It will be strange to see him in anything other than Al Jazeera shirt.
Massively, yeah.
We've been so accustomed to. And as you said, obviously he's not retiring. But, with the news of Ismail Matar, that obviously the sort of this sad demise or like fading away of Omar Abdulrahman due to injuries more than anything, over the last years.
Yeah.
It's
not even kicked the ball this season, Omar Abdulrahman.
Didn't even kick a ball this season.
Yeah.
And it's just, it does seem like once and for all. I think we've done the last rites for the UAE Golden Generation a few times in the past, with certain disappointing tournaments and all that. But I feel like, in terms of personnel, it's come to an end now. We should remember those three in particular, but others as well, as like Ahmed Khalil, and others. Of what a brilliant generation that was.
Yeah, I'd mention as well, Khamis Ismail, I think retiring for the season as well. He was at Al Battaya with Africa. Khamis Ismail for me is the name that isn't mentioned when people talk about the golden generation, but for me he was right up there. Like one of the best midfielders in Asian football for several years. An absolute, just such a cultured player. He reminded me so much, I guess, of like Michael Carrick, that type of player. Just really tall, but at the same time, that physicality wasn't his game. It was how cultured he was on the ball. He, as well as being able to just, an interception machine as well. And he set the platform for the likes of Ahmed Khalil, Amouri to win AFC Player of the Year titles, Ali Mabkout to be top scorer at the Asian Cup, things like that. And I think it's done now, isn't it? And we've got to look ahead with Paolo Bento. The UAE have got a double qualifiers coming up this month, but they're already sorted for the third round. And there is some reason for optimism in the UAE going ahead despite a disappointing Asian Cup. And we'll just see what this generation can do next.
Absolutely. Just a final note on that golden generation. I know this is a match that you will remember, Matt. I was lucky enough to be in Australia, in Sydney, when they beat Japan in that quarterfinal.
Oh,
absolutely
my God,
iconic match in the rain. Ali Mabkout, as you mentioned, scored a great volley. Japan scored with 10 minutes to go, and we thought, we did not believe the UAE could survive. Japan were absolutely peppering that goal, and they had to go through all of extra time. They went through extra time, one on penalties, Amouri doing the Panenka as well. And I'll never forget the reaction of seeing the players, in the mixed zone in the press conference. They looked like children, they were so happy and all that. Really, really fantastic story. I believe sort of the pinnacle of that golden generation, that match. It's fantastic stuff. Matt,
and a word as well there, Mohamed Salem and Ismail Ahmed in that game, the two centre backs, absolute warrior.
Mohamed was the man of the match that day, and absolute giant. Matt, fantastic having you there. This is, it's been a wonderful guest appearance from you, covering Saudi and UAE football. So thank you so much, as always.
Thanks, Ali. All good. And Pete, I don't think Pete's got anything to say now, so that's good.
Brilliant stuff. Well, you say that. Firstly, gentlemen, thanks for that. Using the word pinnacle, I think that nicely brings up the season for us with two footballing experts in our media around the Middle East. So absolutely fantastic. Matt, you do think you're getting away with it, but you're not, because you can blame Ali for that, because he did say that we cover all of the big tournaments. So we've mentioned Europe once. I'm going to mention it secondary. There is a tournament coming up, Euro 24, very soon, in literally less than 11 days to be precise. I'm just going to ask you, these tournaments, but have you got a fancy for it?
Obviously the heart says England, but then I look at England's defensive options, they make me a little bit nervous. I don't think they have a manager who will make the most of the attacking options to negate that. I mean, it's boring but obvious. But you look at France's squad, I think they just have the slight edge on England. They also had, Germany home tournament. They had some of the best players in the Champions League this season as well. Under Nagelsmann, it feels like a plan might be coming together. So I'm going to go England because I kind of have to. But I hope they just get beyond the quarterfinals.
Great stuff. Exactly what my feelings just sort of echoed there by the brilliant Matt Monaghan. Thank you so much. Listen, fantastic stuff, as I said, to wrap up our domestic season here. But you're not done with us just yet. We will be back next week with more guests to look back on a season to remember in Saudi and across the region. And keep an eye on the Saudi national team's exploits. We will see you all then.